Senate Public Safety Committee. We're going to call this meeting to order. At this time, we're going to begin with a prayer, and I've asked the lovely and talented Senator Jackson to open us up.
Thank you. Let us pray. Holy God, we thank you for the blessings of life. We thank you for opportunities to make decisions that will help better the lives of all of your children in this state. We ask that you would guide us and direct us. We pray especially for those people who serve in law enforcement and first response, and for our military or overseas. Watch over them and bless their families. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Now, Senator, before we let you go, isn't it true you're going to have your first bill on the floor tomorrow? Is that not true?
It is very true, sir.
Have you been studying and preparing?
I have studied and prepared, and I got jokes ready for y'all.
All right. Ladies and gentlemen, she's got jokes.
All right. Come on, bring them on.
All right, we're going to have three bills today. Just want to let everybody know that both Senate Bill 223 and House Bill 218 are going to be hearings only. However, we are going to begin in a moment with House Bill 367, which is our annual update to the drug bill, which is something, as you know, one of the reasons we're having a committee meeting today, and only a handful of committees are meeting, is to make sure we get this done soon. I do want to mention, though, if you remember back to our Senate rules, that we have two subcommittees set up here for the main committee. The first one is first responders. That is led by Chairman Randy Robertson. And the other one for general welfare and safety is headed by Chairman Tyler Harper. We are going to assign some bills to subcommittee that are both existing Senate bills as well as some House bills. I do want to remind everybody, though, if you do not request your bill, then we figure you don't want to have it move forward or be heard. So we've got a lot of bills, most of which have not been requested. So we'll take them as something that you don't want to push forward this time, and perhaps it's just something you wanted to begin a discussion on. Okay, we're going to begin, if I could, with Chairman Parrish. If you could come on down and talk to us about House Bill 367. If you want to come to the podium, that'd be perfect, if you don't mind. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. It's a pleasure to be with you this afternoon, and I'd like to ask for your consideration for House Bill 367. As the chairman indicated, this is just the yearly drug update bill that comes to us from Georgia Drugs and Narcotics each year, just to clean up our Georgia statutes and put them in sync with the feds to help our elected or our public safety officials do their job more effectively and efficiently.
Thank you. We appreciate your great work. And we were talking earlier, this is year 37. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Fantastic. So I'm sure Representative Smyre's got a little more time on you, but are you number 2?
I'm number 3 by 1.
Wow. Who's ahead of?
Representative Green has 1 year more than me, and then Dean Smyre has 10.
Wow. Fantastic. Impressive. Wait a minute. Were you fully house trained and housebroken?
Y'all got some good members that spent some time in the House before they came over here, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman Parrish. We do have a question. I'm going to recognize Senator Jackson.
Thank you, sir, for bringing this. Can you talk a little bit about how these particular drugs come to be on this list?
They come to us from the Georgia Department of Drugs and Narcotics. They make up the list each year, and after consulting with the feds to try to get all of ours in line with them, and there'll be new drugs every year that comes along, and we'll never get caught up. But what we like to try to do is do it as early as we can each year and get that out so that our law enforcement people can begin to work on this and be more effective in their job. But as soon as we do this, there'll be new ones coming after it.
May I ask a follow-up?
Certainly.
So what are the implications? So we've added all these drugs. So what are the implications for a person who has these drugs in their possession when it comes to encounters with law enforcement?
Well, there shouldn't be any implication. They're all prescription drugs, and as long as they have a prescription, that shouldn't be a problem. This is basically for the illicit drugs that are on the streets, and if they, catch somebody that's dealing in drugs, like some of the opioids and things like this, it helps them to be able to prosecute them because they can, use this information to help with it.
Sure. May I ask another follow-up?
Sure.
So I do have a little concern that some of these drugs on here are drugs that are just really common, particularly in African American communities, for treating things like high blood pressure. So, for example, on line 138, I don't know how to pronounce the word very well here, but clopidogrel is a really common blood thinner used for high blood pressure. I talked to a pharmacist and she said, our aunties and uncles have these drugs all around, all over. So just a little unclear about why that's listed as a dangerous drug, and what are the implications if you have that drug and you have it in your pill bottle, not in the pill bottle, but like in a little pill box, and it's not in the original bottle. What are the implications
Well, to be
there?
considered a dangerous drug, that means it's a prescription-only drug. That's
Sure.
the definition of that. So it's not dangerous from the standpoint that it's dangerous to you if you take it as prescribed and follow your instructions of your doctor. It's not dangerous to you, but it's just under the classification of a dangerous drugs that if it just gets out in the public, and it has to be controlled, and that's the reason for that.
So are all prescription drugs dangerous drugs then?
To be a prescription drug, it's considered a dangerous drug.
Interesting. Okay, thank you.
And Senator, if I could just direct you on line 38, that is just clearing up a misspelling. So you'll see what was struck before that is just
Sure,
simply
sure.
taking the extra E out of that. So that was already considered on the list. And this, for our newer members, we do what are called kind of annual parity bills. We do one for the IRS every year, so as the IRS rules change, we have to make sure the Georgia Department of Revenue rules are the same. This is the same thing with the annual drug bill. Other questions from the committee members? Seeing none, I will open it up to the will of the committee. I'm going to recognize Senator Robertson.
Mr. Chair, I make the motion do pass.
A motion do pass. I got a second from Senator Anderson. Is there any further discussion by the committee? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All opposed, please say no. Passes unanimously, and we've got Dr. Dean Burke, who will be carrying this in the
Yes, sir.
Senate for you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and members of the committee, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Chairman Parrish. Okay, I'm going to bring up next my friend and my chair of the Cherokee delegation, Representative Ballinger. You're more than welcome to sit or stand, whatever is most comfortable for you. All right. We are going to be looking at House Bill 218, and again,
I do have a sub.
yeah, we have a sub. That's right. We've got a copy of that, and I just want to make sure that everybody's got the correct version of this. So let's flip over to that LC number, and I don't see Senator Harper here, but I know he was spending some time working on this, so hopefully he'll come in a moment or two.
I'll be working from LC 392989S. Is that the sub that you
89
have?
or 87S?
89.
Okay, we have 87S.
I have copies.
Okay, all right, perfect. Wonderful. Would you go grab some copies, Gabe? Hang on a second. He'll come to you and grab them from you.
Okay.
All right, we're just going to pause for a moment while we hand these out. And again, I want to remind everybody that we're going to take all the testimony and the discussion today, and then we'll bring it up at a future meeting, likely next week. Okay, Chairwoman Ballinger, if you would please take us through the bill.
Okay. This is House Bill 218. Just to remind everybody, I am working from LC 392989S. The first part of the bill, Section 1, just takes us from, on lines 30 to 31, just takes us from a specific reciprocity state to a general reciprocity state. It enables the Attorney General to enter into agreements to enable reciprocity with those states with our concealed carry permit holders. And Section 2 goes over the what the governor can and can't do with regards to firearms during a state of emergency. It puts in some constraints there as far as what he can and can't do. It is supported by the governor, and actually the governor's floor leader will be carrying it. And it does have some provisions in there for our probate court judges, which was requested by the Council of Probate Court Judges. In Section 2, on line 75 and 76, and I'll be more than happy to take any questions. It's pretty simple.
A second. Jenna, could you help us out here? We've got two versions here. One that we had pulled out of the your office with his 2987S, and then Chairwoman Ballinger has 2989S. Do you know the difference between these two bills?
Pretty much the changes you requested are incorporated in the lower number, 887.
Okay.
Her only changes that would hers will not include any of your changes. They're your requested changes.
Okay.
Hers just changes lines from the original 218 that passed the House, changes set line 77 to 80, and it just talks about, I think we removed deny an application
Yes.
instead of just accept. And then also it has the proviso that if the courthouse is open to the public, and then some protection for the probate judges on that line 79 to 80.
Okay. Well, let's have you go ahead and talk through that, and
Okay.
then I'm going to recognize Senator Harper, who had a couple other little updates that I think will be parity with what you had, and,
Okay.
and some additional stuff. But let's
Okay.
we're going to go back and forth. But why don't you finish your
All right.
part out first?
Well, I was just going to go over the changes for the probate court judges that they had requested. They didn't want the refuse, because they obviously during a state of emergency may deny if they're open for business. That is one of the things that we have charged our probate court judges with, is denying if somebody is unfit, if they run the background check and there's a felony, these sorts of things. So sometimes just during the course of business, they will deny someone's application. So we changed that on line 77. We also removed if the building or courthouse is otherwise open to the public. We added that because there would be instances where the courthouse would be closed and the probate court judge would have nothing to do with that. That being at the discretion, generally speaking, of the sheriff, who's charged with the security of the facility. And also, they're not responsible for any third party. So the company that actually issues the weapons carry permit, the little card that you get with your picture on it, if that third party for some reason had a delay or a closure, then the probate court judge would not be responsible for that. So those are the specific changes that were made. I didn't realize that there were some changes that were requested from the bill. I'll be more than happy to walk through those with you, Senator Harper, if you want to tell me what those are to form.
Yeah, let me recognize Senator Harper right now. Go ahead. So what we're doing, we're looking at two different bills right now. If you look at the 2989S, that's what Chairwoman Ballinger just gave us the update on. What we had is, I think we had some crosses going on. We were both giving our legislative counsel some information at the same time. So she's addressed the ones in 8.9. Senator Harper had a couple of things that he wanted to look at, so now we're going to be looking at 8.7. We're not going to have a vote on this today. This is a chance for us to vet through this, and then we'll look at this when it's combined and perfected. So, Senator Harper.
Senator Albers, thank you, Chairman. And Chairman Albers is right. It just gives us an opportunity by doing the hearing that we can work together and work with Representative Ballinger. And so what we're trying to do is there's some pieces in HB 218 or some pieces in Senate Bill 214 that we passed out and that we've been working on that are a little different between what Representative Ballinger has, and we were just trying to merge those two together. I think the way Representative Ballinger's bill, where it puts it in the one code section versus creating the new code section like Senate Bill 214 does, is a lot smoother, and it actually works better in the code section and in our code and what we're trying to address in the underlying bill. The one difference the difference between 87 and 89, they're very minor, is on line 70, we add the word manufacturer. So basically, we're adding in those
gonna get you a copy, Mandy.
manufacturers. So it wouldn't just be the use of, it would also be the folks that build them.
So the line would read prohibit the sale or transfer or manufacture.
Well, it would, yes. Well, it reads prohibit the manufacture, sale, or transfer, but yes, ma'am, it would,
Okay.
it's basically the same thing.
We're giving you a copy right now, Mandy.
Yep.
Okay.
And the other difference, and I'm glad Representative Ballinger addressed it, we did not address it in this, but we're working to try to figure out a way to do that over the next couple of days. But Representative Ballinger addresses the probate judge issue in her version in 77 through 80. We hadn't done that in ours, and I appreciate you working on that. The other, there is some differences in the language on the when it comes to an action that can be taken in the two versions, and that can be a point of more discussion on how we would like to move forward with that, and that would be in subsection C1 in both substitutes. There's a difference in how this is approached. We can have a little more conversation about how we would want to approach that. In 87, where in 214 we had a sovereign immunity waiver, which you'll still see in there under section 4, where we don't have that in 89. And then the only other difference between the two is in the 87 substitute, there is additional provision added in regards to the governor's emergency powers to clarify that, and that's also not in 89. So it's just it's kind of a work in progress in trying to merge all the ideas together, and I think we'll be able to make that happen to come up with what I would hope that we can work together and come up with the best piece of legislation to move forward on this particular topic. So those are the major differences between the two, but I think they're close enough that we'll be able to nicely merge them together and come up with something that we can move forward with.
I think they're about 95% the same already,
Yes.
honestly. I think there's just some last-minute additions and some of the stakeholders that we probably all have been talking to. Before we get into some more details, are there any questions from the committee members of what we've been talking about up to this point? Okay. Is there anybody signed up? Is there a sign-up sheet, Chuck? Do you see anybody on that by chance? Okay. So, Chairwoman Ballinger, I think we're, now that you've got a copy of this, I apologize, it was coming at the last moment. We would have sent this to you earlier, but we think we literally picked it up and started making copies before we walked in. What I'd like to do, if it's agreeable to you, is we had nobody come to speak on this bill today. We're going to have most of the discussion today is we work offline with you to just perfect the last little bit of language. I think we're down to T's and C's, candidly. And then we will bring this back on either Tuesday or Thursday with our committee meeting, depending on how quickly we can get that done once you're in agreement. And we will then pass it through if that sounds good. Okay. Wonderful. All right. We're going to move on to our final bill on the calendar today. Again, another hearing only. This will be for Senate Bill 223. I know Mr. Garstier here, Senator Robertson, and I think we're going to call somebody in a moment as well. And I think we also have some of our other friends here from Community Supervision. Senator Robertson, do you want to begin, or do you want to have someone come up and work through this with us?
Mr. Chair, with your permission, I don't mind doing the brief introduction. I think the summary, is as detailed as it is, pretty much describes it. Because of this committee and members' active involvement over the last few years in continuing the criminal justice reform that's going on here in the state of Georgia, a group reached out to leadership in the Capitol and came forth with an idea that they thought would help alleviate some of the pressures in our probation system that the Department of Community Supervision manages and does an outstanding job with. And so what we did is we brought this legislation forward to take the opportunity to vet SB 223 and hear from all parties impacted by SB 223. And I know Mr. Garst is here as a representative of the group. They have put out a lot of legislation around the country that focuses on homelessness and addressing what they feel are issues within the criminal justice system. And so he brought that forward. We reached out to the Department of Community Supervision, and they have some issues and concerns with it as far as how applicable it would be with the work they're doing today. So those two parties are here to speak to it for the hearing.
Thank you, Senator. Appreciate your update on the bill. And again, we're going to have a just chance for people to briefly talk about where we are today. We do know that there are other things on everybody's agenda today, so we want to be cognizant and respectful of everybody's time. So, Mr. Garst, would you like to say something here before we dial in some of the other folks?
Yes, I'll keep it. It's extremely brief. I am not a policy expert. However, the group that brought this legislation forward is called the Cicero Institute. It's a bipartisan institute that looks to come up with innovative solutions to homelessness, addiction, and incarceration. This bill, as you read it today, has been passed in multiple states, most recently in Arizona, where it passed the Public Safety Committee 9-0, and it passed the Arizona House just last week with only one dissenting vote. It has been vetted in state after state, and with that, I would like to turn it over to the policy analyst for the Cicero Institute, who they're dialing up right now to make a specific presentation and to answer any technical questions you guys have on the legislation.
Thank you, Mr. Garst. Mr. Kurtz, are you on the line?
I am.
Wonderful.
Chairman.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for joining us today. You've got the Senate Public Safety Committee, and I'm going to put the microphone up so everyone can hear you appropriately. Go ahead and if you just begin by identifying who you are and your title, and then take it from there for just a few minutes.
Thank you. Chairman Albers and honorable committee members, my name is Devin Kurtz, and I'm a policy... Hello? Sorry about that. My name is Devin Kurtz, and I'm a policy advisor on criminal justice at the Cicero Institute. SB 223 will reward the 62 field offices of the Department of Community Supervision for reducing the number of people revoked to prison from probation and parole. The rewards will be funded with a share of the prison cost avoided from keeping thousands of Georgians out of lives of crime. Nearly 1 in 18 Georgians are on probation or parole, and roughly 5,500 people are revoked to prison from probation and parole each year at a cost to the state of over $150 million. More than 1 in 3 people admitted to prison in Georgia are the result of revocation of probation or parole. Rather than selecting a particular rehabilitative practice that experts say is working in one location and then mandating that practice across the state, SB 223 implements a system that rewards good approaches at the ground level regardless of their origin. That system rewards probation and parole field offices with additional funding if they reduce revocation to prison rates and help more people complete their supervision sentences successfully. Under this reform, rewards will be tied directly to the number of people a field office can successfully avert from entering prison compared to their past performance from 2018 to 2020. The reward will be based on 45% of the estimated marginal cost of incarcerating each person had they gone back to prison. To be clear, SB 223 does not include an upfront investment in probation and parole. Successful field offices will be free to use the reward funds to address the unique local needs of the communities they work in. Some field offices could use the funds to upgrade outdated equipment and implement new technology. Others could expand the most successful rehabilitation or restorative justice programs, contract with online social workers, or fill officer vacancies to help manage and lower caseloads, or give bonuses to their officers. What matters is that they achieve results. Individual field offices are in the best position to develop and implement the best strategies to get there. SB 223 takes a unique approach, but one that has been proven to work around the country. States that use this model have seen officer culture shifts towards a more rehabilitative and collaborative mindset. As a result, they have seen dramatic decreases in criminal and technical revocations, saving the taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars and keeping the public safer. A third-party analysis of SB 223 projected that Georgia could save $180 million over the next 10 years and keep 12,000 people out of prison. I am now happy to answer any questions from the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Kurtz. We appreciate your testimony here today. Are there any questions from the committee members? We've got a question from Senator C.
Mr. Chairman, if he has the bill that I'm looking at on page 4.
Mr.
Line
Kurtz, can you
item-
hear us okay?
Line item 87.
Okay. Hang on one
You can
second. Can you
repeat
get
it.
a little closer to the microphone there?
Page 4, line item 87. Speak to that provision in the bill for me, please.
So Senator C is requesting line 87 on page 4 of the bill. If you could help provide some context to the committee.
Sure. So that's the financial bonuses to officers and supervision field offices. So that is, an idea that has been considered by states like Tennessee, Arizona, a number of kind of Georgia's peers. That doesn't work in every state system. Ultimately, we want these funds to be used at the discretion of the field offices for however they think that they can best improve performance. Now, we believe that that should include financial bonuses to all the officers in that field office. However, that's not something that isn't negotiable or not something that could be tailored to the particulars involving, DCS's policies on bonuses. DCS probably doesn't have a bonus policy currently. The idea is that everyone in the field office would be rewarded equally as opposed to an individualized bonus.
Thank you. Other questions from the committee members? Okay, Mr. Kurtz, you did a great job. You only got one question. We appreciate your time, and we're going to end the call now.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to hear in a minute from our Department of Community Supervision. Is there anybody else who would like to speak to the bill? All right, gentlemen, come on down. I want you to sit 6 and 7 so you can both talk there. And just begin by introducing yourselves, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. I am Brian Tukes, Director of External Affairs for the Georgia Department of Community Supervision. And this here is my right-hand man, Philip Henson. He's our Legislative Affairs Liaison for the Georgia Department of Community Supervision. We'll do our best to keep this very brief. We appreciate the strong support many of the members of this committee have rendered to DCS over the years. Many of you have gone on ride-along, site visits, DRC graduations. And so you're taking the time to know getting to know our department means you understand the realities of community supervision in Georgia, and you know that the efforts that the hardworking men and women who are on the front lines each day trying to bring about and effectuate positive change are making in communities across Georgia. Just real quickly, nationally there's a lot of conversation around probation revocations and their impact on prison populations. Unfortunately, the context surrounding these revocations has not always represented the good work that our men and women are doing on the ground. And we're excited and eager that in a few weeks we have a revocation data report that we are eager to share with you that is more reflective of that work, and we'll be sure to get that to you. And one point that I just kind of want to tease and highlight from that report for the committee is of the 267,515 individuals that we supervised in 2019, only 1,173 of those individuals were revoked to prison for a technical violation. that amounts to 0.44% of the entire supervision population that was revoked for that period. So that really speaks to that we're exhausting all options and alternatives to incarceration that we have at our disposal to keep these men and women under our supervision out of a confinement setting. Just something to quickly debunk is we believe that SB 223 could benefit from better data and better context of the picture of the supervision picture here in Georgia. It would place a lot of excessive reporting requirements on DCS to pursue initiatives that honestly we're already pursuing and measuring and monitoring their effectiveness for. And so just kind of to wrap it up and sum it up in closing, we have, again, already implemented many of the evidence-based initiatives that this bill contemplates. As many of you know, we have one of the most advanced technological platforms and one of the most automated case management systems in the country. And we're consistently monitoring and evaluating our programs for effectiveness. We've just completed a Drc Evaluation that shows that our program outcomes, we have fidelity to them regardless they're in an urban setting or in a rural setting. And Georgia continues to lead the way in meaningful criminal justice reform because we take the time to study issues and work with committees such as this to build consensus. You all have given us the tools that we believe are necessary to reform our community supervision system, and we just continue to ask that you would continue to work with us and give us time to effectuate those changes. And with that, I just kind of wanted to, I hope that paints a better kind of context of where community supervision is in Georgia, and thank you all for taking the time. Did I miss anything, Philip?
Oh, you're good.
Well, thank you. And first off, I want to take a moment to thank each one of you, the commissioner, and all of the men and women who are doing really a great job. And I think for about the last 10 years now, beginning 2011, Georgia committed to criminal justice reform. And not only I think it has been extraordinarily successful for our communities and the folks who live in Georgia, how it became a model that other states mirrored and even mirrored in the federal level. So we very much appreciate the work you're doing. I've got some questions. I'm going to begin with Senator Jackson.
Thank you, Mr. Tukes, and thank you for meeting with me earlier. It's good to see you in person. I just want to make sure, it's my understanding that the Department of Community Supervision, that your goal is to keep people from returning to prison. Is that correct?
Correct.
So do you feel like you need more incentives to do your job? So this bill proposes to provide some incentives to get field officers to do your job. Right. Are our field officers struggling to do their jobs currently?
No, I would answer that just in the short, no. I feel like our officers are highly trained, highly motivated officers, highly skilled officers, and I don't think they necessarily need incentivizing to do the right thing or to do things that are, will keep our population from being revoked to prison. I think the data report that you'll see next week says that our officers are trained enough, skilled enough to do the job and get the job done.
All right, thank you.
All right, I've got a question from Senator Robertson.
Good afternoon, Mr. Tukes. Great to see you. And enjoyed the time we spent together yesterday, Philip, in discussing these things. And to Senator Jackson's point, the officers, the success that you've had with the caseload that you have has kind of put a spotlight on DCS here in Georgia throughout the nation. Is that not correct?
Yes, sir. We believe that to be true.
Yeah, and could you or your fellow director speak to that just briefly on how y'all are looked at around the country as far
Senator,
as
can I stop you for a second? Can you check your button to see if it's mashed down? We're having a problem with the mic. There you go. Okay. Let's try that again.
Is that better? Yeah. If you would discuss briefly the successes that y'all have had through recent years and the attention that it's brought to DCS here in Georgia.
Yeah. Just briefly. Georgia DCS, we've had about maybe 15 states, 2 countries, to come and visit us to try to just to study our model and to see if they could replicate our success. As I kind of mentioned, we've had a lot of success reducing our caseloads because of some of the bills that have been passed out of the General Assembly. For instance, SB 174 allowed us to terminate tens of thousands of cases initially, and continues to allow us to terminate tens of thousands of cases, and creates easier pathways to move those who pose no risk to the community to an unsupervised status or centralized reporting status. That has enabled our caseloads to go from 138 to 100 to now we're averaging maybe around in the mid-90s, a much more manageable caseload for our officers. So those visits that we get from other countries that are, studying what we've done, again, we've been able to have one of the most automated case management systems in the country. Our officers, anytime there is inactivity on a case, officers are prompted with notifications to take activity and to review activity on that case, to ensure that we're really not missing any important steps to that supervision. And so, I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge just the hard work of our RT division and our men and women out there on the front lines who are making those changes actually happen.
Thank you. And just a quick follow-up. And while we're looking at, I think you said it was 1,000 and...
Yeah, 1,173.
Okay, technical violations going back in. We have to understand that we're looking at a number that is huge as far as the total number that you have out there on the streets. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, and having ridden along with your officers and watched them do their job, I do want to thank y'all for the professionalism that you show and the patience that your officers show to those who are under their supervision, because I think that goes a long way into keeping that number where it is. And I know ultimately it would be everybody's goal to get that number down to 0, but we do live in the real world, and people do have real problems. So thank you. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
I've got a question from Senator Payne.
Thank you both for being here. One question, what is currently your statewide recidivism rate?
I'd have to get that back to you. I don't know it right now, but it won't be included in the revocation report, but we do have some numbers around rearrests and reconvictions that kind of paint the picture around recidivism and define that a little bit more clearly. But we do have some reports around rearrest and reconvictions that I can get to your attention.
If you would provide that to us, and then we'll just send it out to the entire committee.
Absolutely.
May I follow up?
Please.
And do you currently, because I'm looking at talking about, I was a juvenile probation officer for 30 years, and so I kind of, this hits home with, I like the bill and what they're trying to do here, but my question was, currently do you track by case managers? I mean, how they perform as far as their caseload, the recidivism within their caseloads compared to others?
I don't think the data is that individualized. I think the data may be, of course, it's aggregate data, maybe by circuit or administrative district. I don't think it's by that individualized, but that again because something that we could talk to our Office of Strategic Planning and Research to and get and provide to the committee.
No reason I asked that is because our joke literally when I was literally for years was I could every offender that came before me in a year's time could never reoffend, but you ever wondered if people in Atlanta would ever know or notice or care if they never did. So I think that would be something good to track, just to look at how where there's greater needs and where there's not. You can see that.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
I've got a question from Senator C.
And it's a friendly question.
Would you use the microphone, Senator? Thank you.
Thank you. It is a friendly question, and I'm just wondering, because I know in our community we have had a number of outreach ministries that are similarly doing what we are attempting to do here. So are you all even considering any of those in part of your trying to make sure that, we capulate as many as possible? Or are you familiar with some of the outreach ministries?
Yes, ma'am. We definitely, our Office of Reentry Services works closely with a lot of faith-based organizations. Just yesterday, and I want to say Clayton County, we had a job fair with one of our partner organizations in Clayton County that hired 50 of our returning citizens. So yes, we and actually our case management system now includes for our officers, and because our cases are assigned geographically, officers are now in our case management system are able to see all the resources, faith-based ministries and partner organizations that are available in that geographic location that they serve. So it is kind of, the systems are kind of talking to each other that way to make the officers available, the resources available.
Other questions? Comment from Senator Summers.
Mr. Chairman, about a week or two ago, I sat down with Mr. Garst, and he kind of explained this thing to me at great detail. And I would have gladly signed on to this bill had it been available at that time. Just want to let you know for the record, I'd have signed on Senator Robertson, whatever.
Thank you for your comments. Other questions or comments? Senator Goodman, I know you're not officially a part of this committee, but you want to bring any wisdom or guidance to us?
I'm just glad to be here and glad to listen. Thank you all for being here.
That's a good answer. Anyone else? Thank you. We appreciate your service.
Thank you. I appreciate it. And Commissioner Nelson's his regards. He's right where he needs to be in the field, checking on our men and women on the front line.
And we appreciate his work and all of you very much.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else here that would like to speak to Senate Bill 223? Seeing none, again, this is a hearing only. What I'm going to ask is Mr. Garst, if you would continue to work with the bill's author, Senator Robertson, as well as our Department of Community Supervision and all the other key stakeholders. We will continue this discussion and see what makes sense moving forward together.
Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. Is there any other business before the committee today? Hearing none, this meeting is hereby adjourned. Have a wonderful day.